Story is an often misunderstood aspect of fighting games, treated poorly by the community who play it and an afterthought to the people who make it. While most fighting game stories are globe-trotting anime adventures or poorly thought out attractions for casuals, fighting game lore is a fascinating thing to some and an embarrassment to others. I happen to fall into both categories, so join me as I regale you with some of the many stories told to us from fighting games. The King of Fighters is an interesting series, collecting some of SNK's best and most popular franchises and putting them all together into a 3-on-3 team-based fighter. While it never reached the popularity of its rival Street Fighter, The King of Fighters is still a celebrated piece of fighting game history, being especially popular in Japan and numerous South American countries like Brazil. One thing people have always praised The King of Fighters for is its stories. Infamous sagas spreading across multiple years and games, some of the best narratives in the entire fighting game genre belong to SNK, and KOF in particular. The most popular of which is undoubtedly the Orochi Saga, spanning from KOF 95 to 97 and following KOF main hero Kyo Kusanagi. It's worth noting that some games in the King of Fighters series are labelled as Dream Match games, and thus do not have a canon story or a prominent part of the series narrative. These games are KOF 98, 2002 and 12, so I won't be talking about these games in these videos unless I have to. With the King of Fighters 15 finally revealed, I think it's as good a time as any to go through the entire King of Fighters series saga by saga as a means of refreshing old players and informing new ones on the crazy world of KOF.
Isle of Fighting to come again. As a year flew by from the excitement, we now declare the opening of our special team tournament begins in 1996.
Sometime after the events of KOF 95, Kyo Kusanagi is challenged to a fight by a mysterious man. Full of confidence after his prior 2 victories in the KOF tournament, Kyo accepts the man's challenge but is shockingly defeated with ease. Having been sent to the hospital due to his injuries and with his mysterious challenger having vanished, Kyo uses his embarrassment and anger to hone his skills in the hopes of fighting the man again, changing his normally projectile attack based techniques for a flame-laced set of melee strikes. After several tournaments held under a mysterious shroud, the King of Fighters tournament has now become a major international event, sponsored by a huge host of corporations. Preliminary contests are held across the world, with 9 teams making it into the actual tournament itself. Kyo returns from his injuries in time to qualify, as he joins up once again with his friends Benimaru Nikaido and Goro Daimon. Returning from previous tournaments are the usual teams, but multiple now have some shake-ups in terms of participants. The Fatal Fury team has no changes, once again consisting of Terry Bogard, Andy Bogard and longtime friend Joe Agashi. The Psycho Soldier team too remains unchanged, with Athena Asamiya once again joined by Seikensu and Shin Gensai. The Korea Justice team also has no changes, with Kim Kapon once again leading his criminal apprentices Chan Ko-han and Choi Boonj against their will. After being given the ultimatum of joining up with her brother or leaving the house, Yuri Sakazaki replaces her father Takuma in the Art of Fighting team and joins up with her brother Ryo Sakazaki and friend Robert Garcia. Making her first official mission in place of her adopted father Haidern is Leona Haidern, who joins up with Ralph Jones and Clark Steele to make up the new Akari Warriors team. The new Women Fighters team once again consists of King and Mai Shiranui, but are now joined by newcomer and rival of the Kyokugen Ryu style Kasumi Todo. To the surprise of everyone, the debuting Bosses team consists of Southtown Clan Kingpin and former tournament organiser Geese Howard, who manipulates his half-brother Wolfgang Krauser and crime rival Mr. Big to join up with him. After Billy Kane's failure to fulfill his orders in the 95 tournament due to Iori Yagami's brutal beating of him and Eiji Kisaragi, Geese enters the tournament himself to investigate the organiser's goal and to also settle the score with his old rival Terry. Iori Yagami returns to the tournament with the goal of killing his rival Kyo Kusanagi. Initially planning to enter the tournament solo, Iori is approached by 2 mysterious yet familiar women who introduce themselves as Machiro and Vice. Though Iori is unaware of it, the 2 are the former secretaries of Rugal who helped him organise the 94 and 95 tournaments respectively. The 2 offer to join up with Iori, using the idea of getting close to Kyo as a way to coerce him into accepting, though they seem to have ulterior motives. Iori is reluctant at first, but agrees when he makes Machiro and Vice accept his offer of making them his servants in payment of joining their team. Iori, Machiro and Vice join together to make up the Yagami team and enter the tournament. The tournament at first runs smoothly, with the Japan team making their way up the brackets. After defeating the equally dominant Bosses team in the semi-finals, The three are taken to the stage of the finals, which takes place in a large sponsored arena. Once reaching the arena, the three are greeted by Chizuru Kagura, who introduces herself as the Guardian and reveals that she is this year's tournament organizer. The Japan team are shocked when Chizuru tells them that she was hoping to see the power that destroyed the previous tournament organizer, Rugal Bernstein. Ignoring the Japan team's questions of how she knows of Rugal, Chizuru informs the three that Rugal's destruction at the end of the previous tournament was more luck on the part of the Japan team than strength. Chizuru wishes to see the strength of the Japan team herself and commences the finals of the tournament. The three are able to defeat Chizuru and demand her to reveal what she knows of Rugal. Before she can, however, the Yagami team make their arrival at the arena in the hopes of confronting Kyo and the others. Chizuru begins informing them of her role as protector of the seal that holds back a dark and evil power known as Orochi. Orochi is an ancient and deadly power that was once defeated and sealed away 1,800 years ago by the Yasakani, Kusanagi and Yatta clans, Iori, Kyo and Chizuru's ancestors respectively. The three each hold their own item belonging to their clan, which proved instrumental in defeating Orochi 1,800 years ago. For Chizuru it is the Yatta mirror, for Iori it is the Yasakani jewel, for Kyo it is the Kusanagi sword. Rugal had attempted to use the Orochi power in the 95 tournament, but was unable to control it, leading to his destruction. Chizuru reveals that the seal their ancestors placed has been broken by the followers of Orochi, and that if broken free, Orochi will bring nothing but complete and utter destruction to the world. She organised the current tournament with the goal of bringing together Kyo, Iori and herself in the hopes that the three will unite their powers to seal Orochi. Iori discovers that Michiru invites the two of the followers of Orochi, who had only agreed to help Iori on the orders of their leader in the hopes of using him to fully free Orochi. Iori then proceeds to absolutely roast the shit out of Michiru and Vice and reveals that he was also using them for his own gain. Chizuru warns them that a stronger enemy soon approaches, a man who once took Rugal's eye and gave him a fraction of Orochi's power as compensation, the same man who attacked Kyo prior to the tournament, who killed Chizuru's twin sister and who has now unsealed the Orochi power. Suddenly, the arena is engulfed in a violent wind, resulting in its complete destruction. From within the wind, a man approaches, the one that Chizuru warned about. Goenitz. As the destruction rages on, the Ikari warriors arrive in time to see Goenitz, who Leona recognises as the one who killed her family years ago. Goenitz briefly turns his attention to Leona and reveals to her that he did not kill her family, but rather awaken the Orochi power within her that resulted in Leona killing her own family. Unable to deny the truth, Leona is overcome with emotion. Michiru and Vice show their dislike of Goenitz, despite him being the leader of the Orochi followers and them sharing the same goal of freeing Orochi. The two tell Iori that Goenitz's role finished when he broke the seal of Orochi and that he is no longer important to their plans. Michiru and Vice decide to betray Goenitz and let Iori live, though Iori still rejects their help in fighting him. Kyo confronts Goenitz, who mocks Kyo for being no better than his ancestors 1,800 years ago. Goenitz then turns to Kagura and offers her to abandon her goal of sealing the Orochi power or face being killed here and now. Deciding to stand with Chizuru in the hopes of sealing the Orochi power, Kyo leaves Benimaru and Daimon behind. Iori, wanting to fight Goenitz regardless, reluctantly allows Kyo and Chizuru to join him as long as they don't get in his way. The three clans reunite for the first time in 1,800 years, forming the Three Sacred Treasures team. They deny Goenitz's offer of letting Orochi awaken and battle him in the ruined arena. Despite his immense power, Chizuru, Iori and Kyo are able to work together to defeat Goenitz. Goenitz admits that he underestimated the three, but still vows to fight them again. However, Kyo and Iori unleash their crimson flames on Goenitz, snuffing out his wind powers and defeating him for good. Once the wind calms after Goenitz's death, Iori is surprised at his normally purple flames becoming crimson upon teaming up with Kyo. Chizuru tells Iori and Kyo that they have recreated the events of 1,800 years ago by using their crimson flames. Kusanagi defeats, Yagami disposes. Chizuru reveals that Iori's crimson flames come from a part of his clan's repressed essence that was changed when the Yasakani clan, Iori's ancestors, made a pact with the Orochi in order to gain revenge for a death that was unfairly blamed on the Kusanagi clan. As such, the Yasakani and later Yagami clan are cursed, with their mothers dying in childbirth and their heirs dying young, with the latest being Iori, who will share the same fate if he continues to use his purple flames. Iori refuses to heed Chizuru's words, but suddenly begins convulsing and oozing blood. Chizuru angrily tells Iori to stop the pointless Yagami and Kusanagi blood feud and work with Kyo to seal Orochi away forever. Though Goenitz's death puts a temporary hold on Orochi breaking free, it can only stay that way if the three ancient clans continue working together. Iori and Kyo deny Chizuru's offer of working together, with Kyo telling Chizuru that the blood feud is between himself and Iori, and that if Orochi or any of his followers appear before them, they'll destroy them on their own. Chizuru makes one last attempt to convince the two rivals to work together, promising that neither clan will be favoured over the other by the Kagura clan, who watched over the Sansa's Kusanagi-Yasukani rivalry for centuries. Kyo and Iori, however, remain steadfast in their stubbornness and refuse, before going their separate ways. After they leave, Chizuru is convinced that both Kyo and Iori will realise the error of their ways and fulfill their destinies to defeat Orochi. Waiting for that day to happen, Chizuru makes a private vow, unknown to all but herself. After Goenitz's defeat, the Ikari warriors search the arena to find everyone involved gone. Realising that they are in way over their head, Rolf and Clark decide to return to Highdown and report on the events that transpired at the tournament. Leona, however, is still troubled by her meeting with Goenitz, despite Rolf and Clark's best attempts to reassure her she'll be fine. Leona wonders what she can do, the truth of her hand in her family's death affecting her obligation to the Ikari warriors. Rolf and Clark start bickering on how to help Leona and eventually start fighting, the sight of which finally makes Leona smile. Rolf and Clark notice Leona smiling and stop play fighting, having done so to cheer her up. Having been present to see Goenitz's defeat, Geese Howard is left unimpressed by the Orochi power and decides to write it off as not being interesting enough to keep pursuing. As he prepares to leave, a sniper tries to assassinate Geese, but the crime lord is saved by his subordinate Billy Kane. Geese is surprised to see Billy due to him sitting out the tournament thanks to the injuries he sustained the previous year, and asks him what's going on. Mr. Big then suddenly turns on Geese, telling him that the attempt on his life is thanks for Geese using him and Krauser to enter the tournament and getting them involved in the bizarre events surrounding it, telling Geese that he used them like prawns. Geese corrects Mr. Big and tells him that he's welcome to do as he likes as Mr. Big leaves. Krauser decides to leave too, telling Geese that their time in the tournament was quite entertaining. Billy then advises Geese that it's also time to leave, suggesting that the two hit the sauna. As he leaves, Geese thinks of Terry Bogard and vows to rest themselves up so they can come back and bust some heads. Before his defeat at the hands of the Three Sacred Treasures team, Goenitz warns Machir and Weiss that Iori is dangerous due to the power of Orochi within him, calling it the Riot of the Blood. Machir and Weiss ignore Goenitz's warning, as he cryptically warns them that he'll soon see what he means. After Goenitz's defeat, Iori returns to Machir and Weiss, who wonder if Goenitz is really dead. As Weiss compliments Iori on his power, the two notice that Iori is convulsing. Iori once again begins oozing blood, as Machir realises that Goenitz's warning was correct, and Iori's Orochi power has awakened into the Riot of the Blood. In an instant, a rabid Iori brutally murders Machir and Weiss, leaving them dead on the floor of the ruined arena as he howls in a fevered bloodlust. Kyo reunites with Benimaru and Daimon, who ask him what he plans to do next. Kyo decides to go home and study for his school exams, evidently still a high schooler at 20 years old. Benimaru pokes fun at the idea of Kyo studying, which causes the two to start bickering. Daimon, tired of the two's antics, goes home, with Benimaru following not long after. As he makes his own way home, Kyo ponders over the events of the finals, thinking of Iori, Chizuru and Goenitz. Despite considering that his duty is done, Kyo cannot escape the words of Chizuru, the threat of Orochi, in his rivalry with Iori. Thinking that life at least won't be so boring anytime soon, Kyo realises that the events started at the King of Fighters 96 tournament are only just the beginning.
They're back to for the answer they've gone to searching. Is it their fate, or just bloody coincidence? It shall be clear as three powers will be at work. Now, the fourth phase is about to begin.
After the events of the 96 tournament that saw the televised destruction of the finals at the hands of Goenitz, the King of Fighters tournament has become a worldwide phenomenon. Once again hosted by Chizuru Kagura, a descendant of the Yatta clan and guardian of the Orochi seal, the 97 tournament is heavily promoted and broadcasted live across the world. Having watched the finals of the 96 tournament on television, high school student Shingo Ibuki becomes obsessed with Kyo Kusanagi and his flaming fighting style. Upon discovering that Kyo attends the same school as him, Shingo begins pestering Kyo to teach him his signature flaming techniques. Kyo, feeling bad for Shingo, doesn't tell him that the Kusanagi flame is an inherited gift from his bloodline and that Shingo will never be able to use it. Despite this, Kyo agrees to train Shingo in payment for free food. As the preliminaries come to an end, 9 teams and 2 single entrants qualify for the King of Fighters 97 tournament. Kyo Kusanagi, Benamaru Nakaido and Goro Daimon team up once again to make the Japan team, hoping to keep up their unprecedented winning streak. The Fatal Fury team remains unchanged, with Terry Bogard, Andy Bogard and Joe Higashi joining up once again. The Art of Fighting team also remains unchanged, with Ryo Sakazaki, Robert Garcia and Yuri Sakazaki making up the team. The Ikari Warriors team ended the tournament once again, still consisting of Leona Haidern, Ralph Jones and Clark Still, who entered the tournament despite being suspended after Goenitz's shocking revelation of Leona's hand in her family's death affected Leona's already troubled mental state. The Psycho Soldier team receives no changes, once again consisting of Athena Asamiya, Seikensu and Shin Gensai. The Korea Justice team also receives no changes, with Kim Kap-hwan still hoping to reform criminals Chan Ko-han and Choi Boonj. The Women Fighters team, however, receives a significant shake-up as King and Mai Shiranui are joined by none other than Chizuru Kagura, who enters the tournament despite also hosting it. Debuting in the tournament this year is the 97 Special Team, consisting of insane criminal Ryuji Yamazaki, private detective Blue Mary, and Southtown criminal Billy Kane, who returns to the competition after his brutal assault by Yori Yagami in the 95 tournament. Though Blue Mary is unaware of it, the team entered the tournament on orders of Geese Howard, who once again wishes to investigate the Orochi and those with Orochi blood such as Yori Yagami. Returning from the 94 tournament is the American Sports Team, once again consisting of Heavy D, Lucky Glauber and Brian Battler. The team were able to qualify for the tournament for the first time in 3 years, with their invitation being stolen in the 95 tournament by the then rivals team. For the single entrance, Kyo's protege Shingo Ibuki decides to enter the tournament to test his new skills, while Yori Yagami goes solo after murdering his previous teammates Michiru and Vice while in a fevered Orochi blood rage at the end of the previous tournament. Despite 9 teams having already qualified for the 97 tournament, the 10th team decide to enter the fray. After their indie band CYS are pulled from a music gig in favour of Yori Yagami's upcoming jazz band, Yashiro Nadekase, Shermie and Chris become irate. Hearing that Iori is entering the tournament, the 3 decide to enter as well in order to get revenge. However, due to them not having qualified for the tournament in time, CYS attack the American sports team and steal their invitations, with them once again being knocked out of the tournament. Dubbed the New Faces team, Yashiro, Shermie and Chris make ways through the competition. As with previous tournaments, the Japan team cleave their way through to the finals, defeating any competitors in their way. Prior to his departure to the tournament's finals with Benamaru and Daimon, Kyo meets with Shingo, who was defeated earlier in the tournament despite an impressive performance. Shingo congratulates Kyo on his performance in the tournament and wishes him luck in the finals before leaving. As he goes, Kyo gives his gloves to Shingo as a reward for his training and efforts in the tournament. Shingo is touched deeply by this and dons the gloves with pride, while promising to keep practicing until he can use Kyo's flames himself. Upon arriving at the tournament's finals, Kyo, Benamaru and Daimon managed to claim their victory in the KOF 97 tournament, securing their 4-win streak in the process. Several competitors watched the finals in the arena, such as Yori, Chizuru and the Ikari Warriors. As the world celebrates the Japan team's victory, Leona begins acting strangely. Having visions of the day Goenitz awakened the Orochi power within her, leading to Leona murdering her family, the riot of the blood within Leona activates, causing her to become a feral version of herself. Despite the chaos, the Japan team were able to swiftly take Leona down, and she is successfully subdued and the Orochi power within her is sealed away. As Kyo, Chizuru and Iori marvel at the frenzied power the riot of the blood brings, they are interrupted by the New Faces team, who reveal their true nature. Having awakened to the truth during the tournament, Yashiro, Shermie and Chris are not only followers of Orochi, but members of the Hakushu, the 8 heads of Orochi who were repeatedly reincarnated across centuries. The Hakushu are the ones who have conspired together with the goal of breaking Orochi's seal and freeing it, consisting of Mature, Vice, Gaidel, Leona's father, Goenitz, Yashiro, Shermie, Chris and an unknown 8th individual. Each member holds their own power of Orochi. Mature uses light, Vice darkness and Gaidel water. Goenitz, Yashiro, Shermie and Chris make up the more powerful members of the Hakushu, known as the 4 Heavenly Kings. Goenitz of the wildly blowing wind, Yashiro of the parched earth, Shermie of the insanely violent lightning, and Chris of the flaming destiny. Yashiro reveals to Kyo, Chizuru and Iori that they and the other KOF competitors had been unintentionally helping the Hakushu break the Orochi's seal, as the remaining Heavenly Kings had been using the power created by the competitors' battles to energize Orochi's awakening. Though the process is essentially complete, they just need one last ounce of power to awaken Orochi and avenge the 1,800-year-old insult against their master. Continuing the revelations, Yashiro reveals that it was not by their ancestors' hands that Orochi was sealed 1,800 years ago, but by the actions of the Yatta clan, who had saved one of the 8 Kusanada girls, young maidens who were set to be sacrificed to Orochi in order to fuel its power. Without the full sacrifice, Orochi was unable to use its full power and was sealed by the clans. Yashiro then reveals that the last surviving Kusanada girl lives on even now, as one of her descendants still lives. Yashiro taunts Kyo with the truth behind the identity of the Kusanada descendant, who is none other than Kyo's girlfriend Yuki, who has been kidnapped by the Heavenly Kings as a means for them to fully revive Orochi. Left with no choice but to fight, Kyo, Iori and Chizuru team up once again to reform the 3 Sacred Treasures team to fight Yashiro, Shermie and Chris. Despite an intense battle, the Sacred Treasures are able to defeat the Heavenly Kings, though they are soon horrified to learn that their victory was for naught, as the fight has given Orochi the power required to be reborn. To the shock of everyone, Chris is the one that Orochi has chosen to be its new host. In service of their god, Yashiro and Shermie commit suicide as a means of giving even more power to Orochi. With Orochi now reborn, the 3 Sacred Treasures team up one last time to take on the Great Serpent. With its intense power and godly strength, the battle against Orochi is even tougher than the last, but the Sacred Treasures are able to unite together in order to defeat it. As the 3 stand over the ruined battlefield, Kyo wonders if Orochi is actually dead. Chizuru reminds Kyo that they were never able to fully defeat Orochi, only seal it away. Suddenly, Orochi appears before the 3 Sacred Treasures team and gloats over its inability to be killed. Kyo, however, notices that Orochi is visibly weakened by their bout, and reminds it that with the Hakushu dead, it has no followers left to save it. Orochi, however, plays one last trump card, claiming that as long as the Orochi blood lives on in someone, it will always exist. Upon saying this, Iori begins reacting intensely, as Orochi activates the right of the blood within him, with the hope of Iori murdering Kyo and Chizuru in a crazed rage. Iori once again becomes lost in a blood-starved frenzy and seems to leap at Kyo, but instead jumps clean over him. To the surprise of everyone, Iori lunges at Orochi and grabs him by the neck, pinning him in place. Kyo then hears a mysterious voice from within him, telling him to purge the evil and save the Yagami clan from the Orochi blood within it. The voice tells Kyo that the Yasakani deal with Orochi was a 660-year-old error which even now has a grip on Iori. The voice begs Kyo to save Iori from the Yasakani error and free his rival from the grips of Orochi's power, so that the two can work together to destroy Orochi and protect the Kusanada, Kyo's girlfriend Yuki. Knowing what he must do, Kyo confirms with Chizuru if she is able to seal Orochi, to which she replies that as holder of the Yatta mirror it is her duty to do so. Iori loses more and more control of the right of the blood as Orochi prepares to release the rest of his power in order to destroy the sacred treasures. With no time left to spare as Iori holds Orochi in place, Kyo uses the last of his strength to deliver a killing blow to Orochi in one of the coolest damn moments in video game history. Using the power of their clan's sacred treasures, the Kusanagi sword, the Asakani jewel and the Yatta mirror, Chizuru was able to seal Orochi away for good, defeating the Great Serpent at last. Kusanagi defeats, Yagami disposes, Kagura seals. The 1,800-year-old war has ended. With Orochi sealed away at last, the dust settles on the King of Fire's 97 tournament. Having overcome the riot of the blood instilled in her by the Heavenly Kings, a remorseful Leona recalls her part in her family's death and tries to commit suicide. Ralph was able to stop her in time, however, and tells Leona that she shouldn't blame herself. Suddenly, Leona hears the voice of her father Gaidel, whose death was orchestrated by Goenitz after he refused to help the Hakushu break Orochi's seal. Gaidel echoes Ralph's words, telling Leona that she is not to be blamed for his death and that she is not bound by Orochi. With both Gaidel and Ralph telling her to make her own fate, an emotional Leona thanks her father and her comrades for their support. With Orochi dead and his followers seemingly gone, the 97 Special Team's business in the tournament concludes. Before they can finish their job, however, Ryuji Yamazaki once again dips into insanity and flees from his teammates. Going their separate ways, Blue Mary discovers that her employer for the job was one of Geese Howard's many criminal associates, and that he had tricked her into working for him. Angered at Geese and herself for being duped, Blue Mary vows to get revenge. Meanwhile, Billy Kane returns to Geese and reports on his findings from the tournament, the most shocking of which is the truth behind Yamazaki's background. Yamazaki is in fact not only a follower of Orochi, but the unknown 8th member of the Hakushu. Using the power of death, Yamazaki's insanity had prevented Orochi from ordering him to join the others and break the seal. While Geese laments losing track of Blue Mary, he and Billy are interrupted by Yamazaki himself, who has arrived looking for payment for his role in the tournament. Yamazaki leaps at Geese and Billy, ready to fight, but the aftermath of this encounter is left unknown. With Orochi sealed away, hopefully forever, Kyo is left alone with Chizuru and Iori's whereabouts left unknown. With the last of his energy spent defeating Orochi, an exhausted Kyo suddenly collapses. The last thing he sees before falling unconscious is Yuki, who tells Kyo that she'll wait for him. As he lays comatose on the ruined battlefield, Kyo is carried away by mysterious men, who plan to use his Kusanagi flame for their own horrific goals.
We await your return, warrior.